Welcome back to another episode of On the Subject. I'm your host, Michael Vilardo, co-founder and CEO of Subject.com, and now Subject.ai. You know where to find us, but we're super excited to have an incredible guest on here today. We're all about highlighting the most innovative educators across the country, and we've gone far and wide. We've gone to Michigan, New Mexico, Illinois. We actually are in our backyard today, and as a proud UCLA alum, go Bruins, we have a super special guest. Dr. Renata, the leader of the UCLA Lab School. We're so excited to be able to host you today and learn more about you and what you do to help kids. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. And so I always love to start with a moment of gratitude. Thank you for how many students you've impacted over the course of your career. And we always like to highlight the butterfly effect. Think about how many kids those kids impact and their families and becoming better husbands and fathers and wives and sisters, and just beautiful what you do. But why did you want to get an education? Why did you take the crazy plunge?
Great question. So I come from a family of educators. My mom taught in public school for 30 some years, my grandma before her, and so on, that whole story, right? So my whole life I was like, I am not doing that. That's not what I want to do. And I always wanted to be a pediatrician, wanted to be a doctor. And I think it was about probably my junior year in high school when I had a math teacher who pretty much said, you probably want to think about a different career. And that shook me. Like, it shook me to my core.
Why did they say that to you?
I was getting a C in math, and their perspective was, you're not going to make it in medical school. And I took that, literally to heart, and changed my entire trajectory of my life. And went to college, went to UC Santa Barbara.
Beautiful campus.
Beautiful school, really fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
And really didn't know what I wanted to do after that. I was lost. I just really didn't know. And just junior year, my counselor said, you have to pick a major. You have to pick a major. And I said, well, which classes have I taken the most of? So let's just pick that as the major. So I ended up doing dramatic arts and finishing, and then moved to the East Coast and started to work with kids and realized, I wanted to be a pediatrician, not necessarily because I love medicine, because I love kids.
Kids are
and then it all started to fall in place. And then I found myself teaching.
That's beautiful. I always say kids are the future of society, and it's such a human lottery. And what zip code you're born to, what parents you're born to, and we have to fight for kids every day. And I could just already tell you're such a high integrity leader, and we need more of that in society. We need people fighting for kids and doing what's right for them to learn and not pushing them through the system. So I really appreciate your passion. We're in the East Coast for you.
I was in Maryland, D.C., Virginia area, DMV.
So what brought you back to California?
Actually, a bad breakup.
Hey, that's good. That's good learning. Yeah, I love it, honestly. So this breakup is like, hey, I want to get back to my roots. I love California. Or what?
Yeah, well, so when I was there, I was working to pay my student loans off at UCSB. So I was working at a bank first, and then I moved into this childcare center / kindergarten. And was working really 6:30 to 6:30 all day to just get paid. I was living with my uncle, so I didn't have rent, and I was just paying my loans off. And that's when I started to say, I love this. So I applied to University of Maryland for their teaching program, their master's there. I got in, and it was about to sign the paper. And I had been there now, I think, for maybe 5 years, and in this relationship for 5 years. And I'm like, I'm not going to marry this guy. What am I doing? To stay. And I was like, so. And I just changed everything and said, I'm going on.
Did you do a master's program in California?
So I came back here, and I was the first cohort for Cal State Northridge had this
beautiful
program for working folks because I had to work. So I was in the first cohort of their ACT program, which is a 1-year intensive credentialing program. So I did that there, and then got my master's in leadership from CSUN, and then got my doctorate at UCLA.
Wow, go Bruins. Let's go. Go Bruins. Well, so can you talk about that? Because I think a lot of our fans out there don't understand how hard it can be to go to school and work, but you can do it.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you get through those times? How did you wake up every day and say, hey, I have to support myself, figure out a way to study, figure out a way to have self-love and care and not get burnt out? How did you make sure you get through that?
I think that the support system that you establish outside of school and within school is probably key to that. You really need to have people who you can lean on, and in those really difficult times can help build you back up, because they are hard and it is difficult to do all those things at the same time.
Hey, we're all good. We'll edit that out. No, it's so difficult because so many folks, the reason they don't go to school is say, hey, I can't afford it, which is so valid. We can't trust it enough here. School is expensive, and your time is expensive. But can you talk about how you were able to propel yourself? And then you got your doctorate at one of the best universities in the world. What was that like?
That was a lot. That
Okay.
was, and to be honest with you, that was probably harder and more intense because at that point in my life, you're talking about being a wife, a mom,
Yeah.
having a full-time job, and going to get your doctorate.
That is so much.
So it's a lot. So I think those are the types of conversations we need to have with young people about how it's possible, right? Like you can do it. When I hear kids say, no, I can't, it's too overwhelming. And so having those conversations about, well, tell me more about that. What feels overwhelming? Why does it feel overwhelming? How can we take it apart to really think about what it is? Because I think sometimes it's not overwhelming. It's you don't want to. And that's okay. You're tired. You don't want to. It doesn't feel good. Okay, so today you're going to take a break and you're not going to study, but tomorrow you'll get back on the horse and do it again. So I think it's really understanding that where that feeling is coming from and the why behind it to help you get through. And to also know like a done dissertation is a done dissertation. Just get her done.
Yeah, well, I can tell why you're such a good educator because you're inspiring me to want to work harder, which is great. That's really beautiful. So you talk about that. You're leading the UCLA Lab School. How did this come about? And how do you bring that unique perspective to helping these kids? Because across the country, every institution is so different. It sounds like you have a real passion for really teaching these kids emotional intelligence. Tell me more about it.
So I couldn't agree more. And I think that the social emotional aspect of humanity, of humans, is something that we, for the first time, are taking more seriously as something that we actually have to invest in.
It's so important.
Right? That it's not just about learning your ABCs or reading or writing, whatever. It's the whole person. And really, with everything these kids have experienced with the pandemic and all of these things that we don't even know. We don't even know the long-term effects of what happened to some of these young kids when they were first learning how to speak and were home, like at home by themselves. So really thinking about all of the things that they've been through and having ways to process that with them in a school setting, which it should be one of the safest places for kids,
Gotta be.
and allowing them to take risks
Make
and to be there,
mistakes,
right?
yes.
Make mistakes,
Yeah.
fall down, get into an argument with a friend, have all those things happen in this place
Yeah.
where you have all these loving and caring adults that can help you walk through that. And then you're building your toolbox, right? You're creating this little toolbox that you carry with you. So when you're later on in life and there's a conflict with your boss or
Mhm.
with your partner, you remember that you learned these, oh, I need to take a breath. I need to say that I need some time. I need to come in and say, and talk from your own experience instead of blaming it on other, like all these things that we work on to really help the kids internalize what it means to be a kind and empathetic human. We do a lot of work around that. And I think it's one of the most special things about UCLA Lab School. We really are a place that nurtures a child as an entire person and not just about checking off boxes about what they learned or what they need to be taught or what that looks like. It's really about more, how are you feeling today, right? Like, how's it
I love
going?
that.
Yeah.
I agreed. And that's where I think the evolution of the teacher should be going is like that emotional support, that coach. You think about the best athletes in the world, they're not out there by themselves. They have the
No.
best coaches in the world
Right.
helping them maximize their potential. And I like to think as teachers as like the most important heroes of society. And I put teachers and coaches very tangential and how can they impact people more and inspire them more. And so what would you say the biggest difference is 20 years ago to today with helping kids? What have you seen differently?
Technology.
Yeah. There's definitely a big difference there. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no.
2025 versus 2005.
Yeah, no, it's huge. The difference is huge.
Time is flying.
Yeah, the kids, and in 2005, I was actually in the classroom as a teacher teaching kids.
Yeah.
And now being an administrator is also a very different journey, but the way that I can look at kids across a whole school now, instead of just in my classroom, I can see the impact depending on what their family's routine is and dynamics are and what parents are saying are okay at home. Like
Yep.
I know the kids who go home are in their room watching YouTube or playing video games and the kids who are not. Like I can,
Wow, so you could tell that
yeah,
easily.
I can
That's so
noticeably
special.
tell the difference.
Yeah.
There's so much more anxiety. There's so much more sort of being on edge, very impulsive, and like all of these different things that we as educators, I think, notice in ways that other people don't.
That's
But,
fascinating.
yeah,
I actually want to dig in more on this. This is really cool. No, because this is the future society. I always say So this year's 2025, Gen Beta is being born this year. So these kids are growing up with iPhone in their hands, TikTok at
Mhm.
who knows what age. And it rather than shaming them for it, I think it's important to have empathy and
Mhm.
understand. And every generation, Gen Z has so many great qualities that
Mhm.
I learn from every day. So with the anxiety piece, where do you think that is derived from? It's so fascinating. Do you think it just they are not connecting emotionally with other humans as much, so it gives them more anxiety
Yeah,
when they
I
have
I
to?
think for this generation now, like these kids that we're talking
Gen
about,
Alpha is for who we're talking about with
yeah,
you all,
right.
right?
We're
Because you're
talking about
case. Yeah.
4-year-olds through
Yep.
12-year-old. The impact that, especially for those 12-year-olds, what they experienced during the pandemic that
That had it so
isolated
brutal.
them,
2
made
years
them
worth.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, really socially put a big crack in their development. And then you compound that with the technology, right? So even households then who are like, no tech until you're 8th grade or 13, and all of a sudden school's on the computer.
Yeah, see, I
And then all of a
understand.
sudden socializing is on the
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah, they're
Like,
just hanging
so
out in Discord chats all day. Yeah.
exactly. So it really did throw this wrench, even in those households that were trying to hold tight to that commitment to do the right thing and all of those things. So it is a big difference. And I think the anxiety does come from not really having experience and time to interact like this,
Yeah, this is
right?
yeah, it's the most fun one-on-one
Yeah.
conversation
There's
is
not, you can't buy that,
storytelling.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
storytelling. I really think that the storytelling and being able to connect with others is going to be even more important. One thing that we've really tried to focus on at Subject is more video and audio submission of
Mhm.
your work because, especially with AI, there's a lot more prone to people cheating their way through the system. And we hate the term click for credit. Some of the folks encourage. We're all about actual learning. There's 41 million adults in the US who have college debt but no degree. That is a painful stat to me. And I think it's on us as educators to really focus on learning, not just pushing people through the system.
Yeah.
You have to learn. So super passionate about that. I think one thing that we do always love to be able to tie these conversations with is I started with gratitude. And so what we like to do is your choice to give a shout out to a teacher or student who's really changed your life and be able to connect with them through the camera. Is there any teacher or student that stands out to you? And you can give out multiple if you want, but we like to put people on the spot here, like someone who really helped change your life through education and you'd like to express gratitude to them.
My gosh, yes. There's really a lot, but there's one particular student, Venice. If you're out there, hi, it's Miss Gigi. He changed my life. Like I don't know how else to say it, and it was already probably in like the middle of my teaching career. It wasn't even in the beginning. He was a lot. He was a lot, and he was brilliant, and he was all over the place, and he pushed me every day to think differently about how I taught, to ensure that he was getting access to the best learning and that I wasn't just trying to cast him aside because he was in my face all the time. Yeah, he's a hero for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, you heard it here first, and thank you so much. You're a
Thank you.
hero, and I
Thank you.
love, how easy this conversation is. It's so beautiful to be inspired, and it's all about helping young people truly be successful and fulfilled in their life. And we can't lose sight of our mission education. So I appreciate your inspiration. And again, please click subscribe, follow us. YouTube and Spotify is where our top two channels are. We really appreciate your support, and we can be able to have more incredible discussions with great educators like Dr. Hinata. Thank you so much for joining
You're
us on this
welcome.
subject.
Thank
Such a
you.
beautiful conversation.
Thank you. Thank